Hello and welcome to the Photo Brigade Podcast. I'm Robert Caplin.
And I'm Cameron Michael.
Well, he did it for me. This is
Yeah.
Cameron. I didn't have to remember your name. I've got Cameron Michael with me, who is a friend of mine through poker.
Yeah.
We've met through the poker table,
Yep.
which is always cool. I meet all these different folks in the industry, different industries.
Yep.
You are more in the video
Cinema world, yeah.
cinema world, I guess
Yeah.
you'd say. I'm more in the photo world, as are most of the people that watch the podcast. So we're going to be talking about something a little bit different. And
Yep.
you also started as a photographer
Yeah.
yourself, so we can sort of merge right into that.
Yep.
Before we jump into your work and talk about your career and stuff, I just want to give a quick shout out and a thank you to Adorama for the use of their event space to record these podcasts and all of our events, as well as Canon Professional Services for all of your support, and as well as Temba Bags. Temba's great, right?
Temba's bags.
Temba is great. Thank you, Temba. We've got Mr. Temba in the back of the...
Temba.
Hi, Mr. Temba. So back to you. Let's talk a little bit about your career path, because as many times as we've played poker together, we haven't really sat down and had a real good drink and talked about life past just random BS and poker table type stuff. So I don't really know, where you're from and how you got your start in photography.
I mean, for me, it started off, working at camera shops.
Really?
I found out, that I had a really weird niche to be able to remember every camera ever held. I was really, really good at that one thing. It struck, and I went right into photography.
Okay, so how old were you when you started in the shops?
I was, I'd always loved photography even when I was a kid. But as far as going full bore into it, I think I was 19.
19
when
or so.
When it was okay, this is it, game over. That's all I can do.
Right.
That's all I want to do.
Right.
So.
And when you first started shooting, what kind of work was it? Because right now, the stuff that we're going to show here on the podcast, and maybe in the future versions, we'll edit in some more of your old stuff, but it's going to be more video and some aerial work, because you do a lot of aerial helicopter work, which is really cool. So what was the first type of work that you started shooting?
Honestly, music, shows.
Music?
I was trying to shoot anything that I found interesting in a small town called Fort Myers, Florida.
I fly in there to see my grandparents every year.
So for me, it was more. I just wanted to shoot whatever I could shoot and see what I could do with the camera and the limitations of it, because I was always shooting with film.
Uh-huh.
And as soon as I went full bore into it, it was the digital age.
Right.
I got a Nikon D200.
How old are you?
What?
How old are you?
29.
29. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm 3-4 years older than you.
Yeah. And I wanted to see what was possible with digital, especially because it was my first semi-pro DSLR, and so I would shoot anything I could. And every single time any of my friends and I were out, I was the guy with the camera. Anytime I went to a house party, I was the guy with the camera.
Same here. Back in those
I was
days.
the guy, just to see what I could do. And then from there, lost my mic there.
That's your mic. Let's tighten that sucker up. Come on, Rode mic. We need some. There we go.
And then from there, I went and started doing commercial photography, and I did weddings for a little bit, but I never really wanted to do that.
Okay. And so when was it that you made the transition to New York City? Because that's a big jump from Fort Myers to here.
It's a long story, which I'm sure we don't even have within this hour. But realistically, there was a lot of really big events that happened in my life that if you ever asked my father, it was a last minute decision. I think maybe a 2 or 3 day decision where I got an offer from an ex-girlfriend's roommate from college to move up. They were like, we need a third roommate. We know you probably want to move up here. And I just had $3,000 in the account I had saved up already, and I went, all right, I'm going to spend it all, and I'm going to move to New York, and I'm going to figure it out.
The city of dreams,
I had a job, a prospective job that fell through up here. I started doing a lot of photography up here. Again, it's a very long story, but
it was probably difficult, right?
It was absolutely difficult. And then I realized that I had been doing commercial what do they call it? Tourism bureau work, for Southwest Florida, everything like that, doing commercial and nature work for them.
Yeah.
So as soon as I came up here, I was really wanting to get into fashion, doing fashion work, et cetera, and then I realized I hated it. Yeah, and I was like,
What did you hate about fashion?
it just wasn't me, you know. Like I feel like I was just young and trying to force something that wasn't who I really was,
right.
You know. And I realized that, you know, what I really loved was doing commercial work and doing nature work, and I really wanted to go back into that. And then I really wanted to get into video, but at the time I only had DSLRs and all that other fun stuff, so I dropped everything again and decided to do motion control time lapse.
Yeah. So maybe what we should do is jump over to your Manhattan project and play that in the background as we discuss. Yeah. So you started the Manhattan project pretty quickly after you moved here, or when?
It was about 5 months in, maybe a little bit less. And it was a weird blending because I wanted to do video work, but I knew that I didn't have the quality of video. You know, as far as I had a Nikon D3S at the time, and I realized I really didn't have what was up for par, and this was like the weird hybrid that I could find in between. And it was also the first time in digital that it felt like film again, because once you shot it, you didn't know exactly how it came out until you got back home, you put it in the computer, you did all the edits, and then you wait for the render. And it was, you know, it was exciting again.
Right.
And it was like this weird hybrid where I was like, okay, the quality's where I want it to be, and I still get to do, you know, my photography.
Well, what's interesting is you're actually shooting at a much higher quality than what was possible at those days too.
Yeah,
it's better than HD when you're shooting stills.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, and I realized that 4K was a thing, and you know, this is back in the day when, you know, everybody was, you know, Red was coming out with everything, and
right.
You know, everyone was going like, well, those are so expensive, who can afford one? And I wanted it to be up to par. So this was a nice transition into that, you know, and into getting into the video world even more, doing what I could for, you know, very limited amount of money. I shot this entire I had to sell a good amount, pretty much all of my equipment, to be able to fund doing this, because I did nothing else.
Is that so?
I did the entire project with a Nikon 24-70 and a D3S.
Really?
Yeah. And yeah.
That's incredible. But and also I noticed some movement in some of these. So
yeah,
well, motion tools.
At the time it was the early stages of Dynamic Perception, which was a motion control company that I was using. It was very rudimentary, but it was a 6-foot 80/20 slider, and you know, like a piece of aluminum with a motor on it. And
so it was some sort of motor that made it an even amount of time that it was shifting.
Or slow enough amount of time, depending on how you're shooting.
One of our good friends, Mike Eisler, and I have done some time lapse in the past, and one of the tools that and I don't really do many time lapses anymore. I used to did 2009. I did one at the New York Yankees game, and he suggested I use a tool made for what do you call it? Astronomy, that tracks the moon or the sun or whatever.
Celestrons.
Right.
Yeah.
So I still got one of those.
I actually almost bought one, and then I realized I was too broke to.
Yeah.
I wanted a third axis, but it was like I couldn't afford it.
It was incredible. I mean, it was hard to do because it's like you could only make it go. It's like the slowest speed was almost too fast. Yeah, it was a hack, completely a hack. But I did it. I brought it to the Yankees game and made it work, and so on. But now they make so many new tools.
Yeah.
They're specifically developed for these.
I currently use the Kessler Second Shooter and Second Shooter Plus. Those are great options, as well as their Cine Drive.
Their Cine Drive.
For larger setups,
right,
and more precise moves,
right. So, this was a personal project that basically made you, right, and it got you into this world.
That was the idea behind it. It was a last ditch effort. It was either I did this project and it went well, or it went home. And that was I had no money, and it was it. You know, I was severely in debt, and tried to do what I could, to make it work. And luckily enough, when it came out, I think Gothamist was the first people to pick it up on Twitter.
Yeah.
And then I don't think I've ever received more emails in my entire life. And within 2 weeks, I had a large creative agency flying me out to San Francisco to do a major week and a half shoot.
Wow.
With Chase Bank for a new installation. So it went from having being broke out of my mind to literally having to rebuy all my gear before the shoot, because I had no gear. They're trying to hire me, and I had one lens and one camera.
Wow.
So I had to rebuy 2 other cameras and get sliders, and we had to have 3 different pieces going at all times for that shoot. So
And so did you end up making money off of that particular shoot? Like
Not really. Because I had to rebuy everything, and it was literally at the exact same time that the lease was up for our apartment, and we weren't renewing. So I had to put, before the shoot, I had to literally buy a storage unit just to put all my stuff in.
Oh my God.
And I put everything in there, and I came back with no place to live. I had just done the project, and I had to Airbnb. And I still do that today.
Really? So that's what I heard, is like that you couch surfed for quite some time.
I still do.
You still do, but you have a place now.
No, it's a long-term Airbnb.
Oh, really?
I've never bought a piece of furniture in New York City.
Isn't that something?
I like it that way.
Is it because you like to be a nomad and travel? And
I don't like the idea that I have to be somewhere. If I wanted to up and move, I could, but I decided to stay here, and I can.
Well, you're currently putting together a post for photobrigade.com, our In My Bag series, and what prompted me to have you do this was you took a picture of some of your gear all packed up, and I was like, hey, looks all nice and packed up. Maybe you can take all that gear out and do a...
That was great, but at least it looks pretty now.
Yeah, so now you went from... So you started with this single camera and lens to create this beautiful Manhattan project that we just saw, and now in terms of gear, you have plenty of gear.
Yeah, I have more than I probably need at points.
Oh, well, that's for sure. So I'm wondering, that transition now, you have all of this gear. Do you just have all these like big commercial jobs now, and you just decide, okay, I'm going to buy all this gear and then rent it back to clients? Or
it's generally the idea, and it's also I think the main reason I own gear is because I want to be able to do it on my own time. I don't want to be a slave to like, well, I don't actually own that, and I have to rent that. I like to, if I want to wake up and I don't have a job that day, I want to be like, all right, I can do whatever I want with my gear.
Yeah.
And it's
so you like that super productive. You don't. It's not just like you wait for jobs. You're always looking.
No,
you're like inspired to just make.
Absolutely. I mean, like just because I have a steady career now, and I have the gear that I never did have before, doesn't mean that I should stop.
Right.
I got into this as an artist, not as a businessman.
Right.
Yeah.
So what about your business? Do you have good business skills?
I think I'm getting better.
Yeah.
I think as a strictly artist is what I consider myself. I do my best, but I think it takes a long time for somebody who does primarily art to run their own business.
Right.
It took me about 3-4 years before I actually felt comfortable. I think this year is actually the first year I felt comfortable, especially with like taxes.
Right.
Yeah, that's the whole thing.
Right. Yeah. Taxes suck, don't they?
Yeah.
So primarily your clients, I know that there are a lot of clients that you work for that you can't really talk about.
Yep.
And that's just, NDA type stuff.
That is one of the biggest bummers.
One of the biggest bummers.
There's so many people that are like, what have you been doing? I'm like, can't talk about it.
Can't talk about it. Yeah. But needless to say, they've most likely seen your work. Most everybody that's watching has seen his work. You just don't know it, which is really cool.
Yep.
And so let's jump into the few pictures you have from aerial work here that you've brought along with you. When did you first jump up in a helicopter, and is this like a thing that you do regularly now? And
it's gaining a lot of momentum. As far as I'm absolutely obsessed with heights. It's a big love of mine. So anytime I can hop in a helicopter and get up, for me, it's 8-year-old. Myself is pretty much freaking out because a helicopter is still one of the coolest things in the world.
It really is pretty cool, yeah.
To be able to hover in the air like that.
I've gone up with La Ferret once or twice, and just, hey, I've got an extra seat. You want to come? Sure.
Yeah,
and
why not?
Why not? It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of coordination and safety involved with this kind of stuff, because I imagine you're shooting all the time. So this is in Hawaii, it looks like.
That's Kauai.
Kauai.
Nepali coast, yeah.
So you're hanging out. You helicopter shooters are like hanging out of the side of the thing. So you're strapped in. You've got folks like, I don't know if on this shoot, but like Mike Eisler, who's like an aerial technician who's like got your back literally.
Yeah.
It's like your life is in his hands in a way.
Yeah.
Because folks like him kind of hand you the gear, make sure everything's secure, make sure you're strapped in, and if you should crash, he's the only one that can like get you out of that apparatus.
Pretty much.
in a pinch there.
Yep.
So, are these shoots that we're looking at able to talk about, or not so much?
I mean, not so much about the client, but you know, I can tell you I was up in a helicopter and I can show you the picture.
Oh,
say
wow.
and say I did it.
And
you
you
know,
did it.
like, so
it involved just getting. It was scenic shots.
Scenic shots.
Scenic shots. Just beauty pics.
Yep.
That's mainly what you're hired for these days is beauty pics, right? Beauty
imagery, I guess. I mean, like, I also do commercial DP work, as I'm sure we'll see in a
Right.
second.
Yeah. We'll look at those for
you know,
sure.
So as far as I think there's two separate types of clients for me now. It's either I'm a commercial DP doing a commercial job for a commercial, or it's somebody hiring me to do niche work, such as aerial and/or motion control time lapse, high speed work, etc.
Right. Let's jump into a few of your projects here. Where did I put these? Which one? Let's do 5 days, or should we do AT&T? Let's do AT&T. This is a corporate client.
Yeah, we could do this one.
All right. So we don't have audio. We're just going to talk over it and everything.
Yeah.
But tell me about this shoot, this client.
This is at AT&T. This is with director Andrew Wonder. It was a really fun shoot. You know, we decided, you know, it was very run and gun at this in a all available light, and we shot it completely on a I do believe a 50mm Kawa anamorphic. The entire thing, the entire campaign.
Really?
On a Movi M15 Red Dragon.
Okay.
And it was a lot of fun.
Okay.
Yeah.
And this aired. Was this on a television ad or?
Oh yeah,
was
this is a national campaign for them.
Okay. So and just television or
Yeah, television,
everywhere?
yeah.
Anywhere else like web?
I'm sure web. Yeah.
I'm sure it's on the
I'm
web.
Sure. I know I saw it all over. So I saw it on my own Instagram feed, which was weird, on sponsored ads.
And so, what goes into a shoot like this? I mean, is everything storyboarded? Are you with a huge crew?
I mean, well, there are the shoots with the very large crews, but this one was not. Was the exception to that. This is a very small, tight knit group. I mean, we did have our audio guy, director, producer, clients, etc. We probably had 10, 15 people on set at one time. But as far as storyboarding, no. This is we figured we would go out and scout and say, okay, this is probably what we would like to do. I would discuss with Andrew the best ideas we could and go from there.
Yeah. So have you found, I mean, obviously you're doing this DP work, but you're so well known now for your time-lapse work.
Yeah.
Do you find that you're being pigeonholed into...
No. I've made sure not to. As much as I love my time-lapse work, and every single time I do it, I'm excited all over again. Mm-hmm. There's a reason why I've invested in doing so much more video work, is because I'm very capable of doing that kind of work, and I'm not going to just be a time-lapse person.
Yeah.
So.
But it's nice to be known for a certain skill.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm very well. I'm very happy with the idea of people being like, he's very good at time-lapse, but also he does commercial work.
Right.
He does that niche, and it is a niche. There's not many commercial time-lapsers out there, and we all seem to know each other, hilariously enough.
Yeah. And I notice a lot of these. Again, I'm kind of not really a video guy, so I don't know all that goes into these types of things. But it seems like there's a lot of interesting motion tools. Your chase cars. I mean, for
yeah.
shoot like the one that we just saw. Like how much work goes? I'm just going to play that one more time so we can talk about it. How much work goes into, say, a shoot like this? Was it a 1 day shoot? Was it?
This is a 2 day, maybe 3 days. I think it was 2 or 3 days. But yeah, it makes it a lot easier using a Movi. Let's put it that way.
So for those of, I know a Movi is a stabilizer.
Yep.
That's basically all I know about it.
Yep.
Right? But that's what it is. So
that's essentially what it is.
Gives
it's
you nice,
another
silky
version.
smooth.
Yeah, silky smooth moves, and it doesn't require as much setup. And yeah, sure, they're Steadicam ops is a completely different thing, but it's equivalent to like a different tool like a Steadicam.
Right.
So.
Right.
Yeah.
How do you feel about the world of VR these days? Like, are you getting into that?
Yes, I am. It's actually kind of frustrating because there are so many large companies that will just undercut. But I am really
just for the experience or something.
No, just to get the exposure, because it's a new medium, and it is cutthroat business. So to be a smaller, non-multi-million-dollar company, it's a struggle. But Oh, this.
So this particular this is the tourism type stuff you did, or?
Yeah, after I did the Manhattan project, after I did that huge Chase Bank job, I had been, like I said, shooting photography for them before I even moved to New York City. And then, the creative director called me up and said, "We'd love for you to do a piece on Southwest Florida."
Yeah.
And for me, it was like, okay, well, I get to go back home, see my family.
Those are the
and
best when you
do
get to go
nature
home
work,
and get paid
you know?
for it.
Exactly, and I get to go do nature work, and this was, pretty much where I wanted to go with my career in the first place. So when they commissioned me to do this, they pretty much said, "Here's the budget. We're going to give you the money, and you're going to do whatever you want, as long as it showcases the most beautiful parts of Southwest Florida." And it took a lot longer than I thought, but I think that was like one of the best parts about it.
So this was a longer term project than you expected. How long was the project start to finish?
I think it was like 6.5 months of back and
forth.
forth. Well,
Wow.
I mean, I was doing other work during that,
see.
So I'd be going to New York.
So it wasn't just like, I'm going to head to there and spend a week and be done with it.
No, it was a, because there's so many things that, we passed it now, but there's the black skimmers. Those are only seasonal, but they really wanted to capture that.
Drones?
That was a Cineflex.
Which is like a helicopter sort of
That's
thing?
a helicopter stabilizer. It's a very large, we had a very large zoom lens to be able to capture that kind of stuff.
Okay, so just for those that, a helicopter, like a model helicopter, not like a real...
No, not like a real helicopter.
Like charging all these birds with a helicopter. Yeah. Oh, wow, look at that. Man, I hadn't seen that. That's something, huh?
Yeah.
Well, cool. I mean, that's really, really, really interesting. And the client was very pleased?
I was actually one of the most humbling experiences because Tam, who is the president of the Visitors Convention Bureau, was asked like what was her most proud moment in her I think it was like 15 or 20 years being the president, and she said it was this project, and I was like very humbling. I was like, oh, that's pretty nice to hear, So, but I put a lot of heart and soul into this because not only was it something I really felt strongly about, but I was like, I'm representing. Well, it's not my hometown, but the town I primarily grew up in. As far as like in adulthood, middle school and high school years.
Right.
So for me, it was like a lot of people complained when we grew up, where we were because it's not necessarily young people friendly. But it was nice to come back and show really how beautiful it can be there.
Mm-hmm. And how did this end up running? Was it a television, or was it something they did on social, or? This
was everywhere, I feel. I heard people saying they saw it on television, they saw it on YouTube, Hulu, they saw it before the movie theaters.
Really?
In the Midwest.
Visit Southwest Florida.
Yeah.
I know that they do things here in Manhattan, have events and stuff where they have, like I remember Madison Park, they had Southwest Florida
Coming
Day.
Up is one of my favorite shots.
Oh yeah?
Tell
me about it.
There's a supercell that I caught, and I think it was one of the most ecstatic moments of my life because I had been chasing storms for 3 months to try to capture like a real amazing, unique storm because it's the lightning capital of the world. I love doing this. This is a fish house. They're very famous fish houses, and this is with the Cine Drive.
Oh wow, that's stunning, isn't it? And have you gotten much into astrophotography? Like, I notice a lot of star work that you've done as well.
Absolutely. Unfortunately, on the East Coast, it's a little harder.
Yeah.
But there's so much light, and I'm in New York City, so I can't really. But anytime, I'm going to really try to get out to the West just to try to do some more. And now I probably have to wait till next year because the Galaxy season is over. Here it is.
Oh wow! Holy cow! That is insane.
I was told by a few people this is the first supercell to ever be documented off the coast of Florida in the Gulf of Mexico.
Did you know that? Oh, look at this. So how is this created? It's a long each picture's a long exposure.
No, actually, they all are long exposures.
I mean,
but it's actually an old. They don't make it. You can't even get it on After Effects anymore. But it's called CC Time Warp, and it allows for that. But I really wanted to showcase the rotation of the Earth as much as I could, and play with it a little bit more artistically because I didn't want it to be too straightforward because it was an art piece. Essentially, they commissioned me to make my own art piece about the area.
Right.
So I really wanted to, the baby turtles. That took forever to get permission to do.
Oh man, that's hilarious.
Yeah,
that's great. And I mean, what do you do? Like, does it ever get boring for you?
Never.
I mean,
never. Cinema will never get boring.
But I mean, this like time lapse, I mean, time lapses I've done, depends on where you are, of course, but I imagine you just kind of like, you have to set it and forget it for the most part.
Yeah, but there's so many other things you could be doing while that's happening. You know what I mean? Like
setting up other gear.
Setting up other gear, getting other shots. I generally, we have time-lapse push-up days, where we're just, me and the crew will just do push-ups and, do push-up competitions while we're waiting. I mean, there's a million things you can do.
Push-up competitions.
Why not? There's some,
Beat me there. I'm terrible at push-ups.
So am I, don't worry.
And so you mentioned, the client. I mean, that's pretty great. The client says, we have this much budget. We're just going to give it to you. Make it happen. That means you can do whatever you want.
Exactly.
You have flexibility.
And I feel as an artist, that's the dream.
Did you find yourself, like, going over budget?
Oh, absolutely. No, I lost money on that job.
Oh.
Absolutely.
So this was like...
Well, I mean, it was like, I wanted to go into cinema, and it's like, okay, well, I don't really have a proper cinema camera. So, I mean, a good amount of that budget went into buying a Red.
Right.
Because it was like, I don't...
A Red, okay.
Well, I have 4K camera, 4K time lapses, et cetera, et cetera. It's like, then what am I going to do? Shoot 1080 and keep it, like, low res? No. So I had to keep up and keep it even.
So this is a San Francisco project you also did. Is it a similar type deal for a...
Yeah, I mean, they gave us a budget, and they had some key locations.
And so you mentioned us.
What?
Us. So that mean you brought a team to do this?
I brought a team with me. Yeah, at the time.
How big's your team?
It was only 3 people.
Okay.
Yeah, but it was all that's really needed. We had 3 units running. They were pretty much the support. I set up the shots, and one of them would do data management whenever we could.
Oh, because that's another thing you got to think about. Because I'm remembering back now to my time lapses that I've done. You're talking... Okay, let's say this particular project. How many still frames would you say the edited version of this project does?
I don't even know.
I mean,
I
hundreds of thousands.
No, on this project, probably not hundreds of thousands.
No?
Probably 10,000, maybe
Really?
more. Actually, probably like 20,000.
Okay.
I'd say. Depends on the interval. I mean, it could be 1 frame per second.
And are you shooting RAWs?
Absolutely.
So you're shooting RAWs, and you're shooting, each one of these. So
36 megapixel. Most of this is shot on D800, D800s. And D4, Nikon D4 and D3s.
What's the hardest part of time-lapse photography, videography?
Honestly, I think it's just making sure that you cross all your T's and dot all your I's, because if you don't and you miss one thing halfway through, you're going to realize halfway through it you ruined the shot.
Yeah.
And the shot's worthless. And I think one of the harder parts about it is worrying about weather, because it's heavily weather dependent.
Oh, yeah.
Unless you're doing a time lapse inside, if for some reason it starts raining, that time lapse isn't gonna really come out. If it goes overcast and it gets gray, it's kind of a moot point. You've wasted, 2 hours. Well, not wasted, but
because you want to see this motion in the clouds, like
absolutely,
this. Like that's part of really. And
I mean, there's actually a term called time lapse clouds, and they're the white puffy Simpsons clouds.
Oh,
are perfect.
Those are the perfect ones. Yeah.
Yeah. But you just can hope for the best, and I think that's one of the reasons why not too many people do it on a commercial scale, is because you'd have to have that type of mindset and to be like, okay, it's fine, it didn't happen, and not get too upset about it, because I know that a lot of people would.
This day and age, with people worrying about terrorism and people taking pictures of buildings and stupid crap like that, do you ever have any problems with police or just like being
in New
there?
York, absolutely.
In New York, it's like...
during the Manhattan Project, I almost got arrested quite a few times.
Really? Because you're hanging off side of buildings and stuff?
No, I mean, they weren't up there when I was sneaking up there. There was two of them I snuck up on, but it was mainly the subways and doing those shoots, because I couldn't do tripods and all that, but shooting in Grand Central, they had the armed guards come up to me and berate me. Like, what are you doing? Luckily enough, they ended up being super nice people.
Oh yeah.
And they were like, we know you're not doing anything bad. Just stay out of the way.
Just they got to check. It is what it is.
Absolutely.
But I've heard some recent stories about people just taking a large format picture of like something in the Port Authority or something, and like being threatened by the,
Absolutely. There's some people out there that will do that.
Some people just like to exert their authority.
Mm-hmm.
So what's next for you? Like, I mean, obviously you've got your big clients that are coming through that we can't talk about. We also have you do your passion work, but is there, like, in terms of your career in this genre, is there anything else that you're trying to get like that you want to be doing that you're not already doing?
I have a good feeling about the path that I'm on right now. There are some tweaks that I want to do, and some things that I don't want to do anymore as I get a little bit older, and I start to be able to somewhat choose my jobs. Not that I don't have much option,
Right.
but the more and more I get into it, the more and more I realize that not only am I developing my technical skills, but as far as my comfort level in this world, in the cinema world, is growing, and my confidence level, as much as I try to keep myself down, it's also going a little bit up in a good way. Where I feel that I can actually start doing some writing and actually doing
Really?
some
Writing?
pieces, yeah.
Can you write? Are
That's
you a good
good.
writer?
I don't know.
We'll
You
see,
tell
I
me,
guess.
yeah.
We'll see what you do with this post.
I'm
of
my own
ours.
worst critic, so, as most people are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where do you see the future of cinema, in terms of gear going? I mean, is it changing? I mean, with all the digital,
yeah.
Is your gear that you have almost outdated at this point?
No, I'm a serial gear person,
Okay.
so I buy and sell and keep up as much as I possibly can.
Right.
But within reason, obviously. But the gear will change. Everything will change. Things will get easier. Things will be harder. It's just about, for me, it's just about assimilating the new technologies and making sure you keep up, because it changes quickly and quicker every year. So
VR is the big thing, right?
VR is a huge thing now.
And when you shoot, you've shot VR yet, or?
I've shot two VR pieces, and both those experiences, I had so little to do with the process, because I pretty much set the camera, but I don't do the post-production on it.
Oh, right.
And post-production on it is very niche, and you have to have a large render house, depending on what resolution you're shooting at.
God.
And the stitching, doing proper stitching, all I can really do is make sure that the exposures are perfect. You know what I mean?
You do it. You have the concept. You shoot it, and then you pass it. So, is that just for VR, or do you do your own post production for your regular work?
For my regular work, for my time lapse work, I do all the post production. Not many post production houses know the proper workflow and or the proper fixes for any kind of things that might happen, like aperture flicker, etc.
Okay.
So there's a lot of things that are very niche to that area that most post houses will be like, you do that and send us the files.
I see.
Yeah.
I see. Because that is, I mean, it's shooting the stuff is one thing, difficulty, but then there's a whole new level of a whole nother level of the editing. Like, you could go out and shoot for a day and have to edit for weeks.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I've currently in my career made that decision that I'm not going to, delve too much into that, because I have enough things that I need to learn on the end that I'm working on now. I want to concentrate on what I'm doing. As far as editing, I will sit beside the person and I will do as much as I can, editing like a piece together. I'll sit next to the editor and I'll work with them. But I as far as delving into advanced After Effects work and all that other fun stuff,
There's pros for that.
There's pros for that, and and I'd rather keep it. I'd rather be a master of one than a master of none. Because I can't spread myself too thin.
True.
Yeah.
True. Do you see? Right now, obviously, you're kind of a nomad in a way.
Yeah.
Do you see yourself getting to the point where, your production company becomes, you have an office where you have your in-house team and stuff like that?
That's a great idea, and I'm sure, hopefully, one day I'll get there. But I'm not in any rush. For me, it's more of worrying about the core of my work right now. It doesn't matter where I live. It doesn't matter if I have a solid, normal place and a normal life like everyone else. It's more about my work right now. It's more about what makes me happy and what would allow me to keep creating as an artist and keeping my mind sharp and not finding myself complacent. I find being able to change my surroundings whenever I want really allows for that.
That's how it should be. I mean, that sounds great. I'm going to pull that quote and put it somewhere. That's wonderful. Well, cool. Is there anything upcoming that you can talk about that we haven't really spoken about?
I'm working on another Manhattan piece currently.
Oh, cool. For a client or another project?
For me.
For you.
Yeah.
Do you find that might be the best route? Like, you can do whatever you want, you make it perfect, and then you can potentially license it or sell it to a client?
The idea is to work enough and make enough money that I can work for myself and do whatever I want, for my projects.
Yeah.
I've been working on a piece that compares Iceland and New York City as well, but that's expensive as well, and it's a back and forth, and it's a long process. And for me, it's not about the instant gratification as much as it is about, I before I was a photographer, I did painting and artwork and everything like that.
I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, very long. At one point, all I wanted to do was be a painter. And I loved oil because there was a process to it. It took longer, and it was when you actually did something that took a long time, and it wasn't just like it's done in a week. That makes me feel better about it, and I feel like I've done a lot more work, and the work shines through because of that. Because I've actually taken the time and spent the time and realized that it's not a week process, it's not a 2-week process, it might be a year process, and just accepting that allows for me to feel better about the creative process that I have.
And I guess lastly, you've worked with a lot of really talented people over the many years.
Absolutely.
I mean, just our poker table in general.
Yeah, all-stars.
All-stars.
Mm-hmm.
And, do you learn a lot from them?
Absolutely.
Like, do you consider them almost like your
one of the main reasons I really loved getting into cinema was the fact that there's a huge sense of community, because it takes a larger team to do videography than it does cinematography than it does photography.
Yeah.
As far as just like you need 6 people to make any kind of production really solid and smooth. Mm-hmm. So I think we all need each other, and we all pull from each other, and that's one of the best parts about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Teamwork makes the dreams work.
That's what Ab says.
That's what Ab says. Is he here? No, he's not here.
Right.
Well, cool. I'm super thrilled that you stopped by to show us your work, and it's really inspiring to hear that you're doing what you just love to do, and you're able to not work for the man. You're able, that's great stuff.
I couldn't do another. Had so many day jobs, then I was like, I can't do it. So, it's all I can do.
And so, where can people follow you? Because I know your website's under construction.
Yeah.
So, social. We've got a
social
couple.
media. I mean, pretty much the number one thing you're going to see any kind of activity on is my Instagrams. I have 2. Two
Instagrams. Yeah.
One that I separated my work and my actual behind the scenes work. And that's at Cameron Michael.
Okay.
And then at Cameron Michael _BTS.
Behind the scenes BTS. Yeah, that one's cool. It's more gear.
It's more gear oriented. So if you're a gearhead and you really want to see what goes into the productions that I do, that's the one you want to follow. If you want to see what I consider good photography in my mind, or some clips of my work coming up, my personal account at Cameron Michael would be the one.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Well, folks, that's Cameron, and we should please thank you again to Adorama for using their event space. Yeah. Thanks to Canon Professional Services, Temba Bags, and for those of you that made it in, please follow us, subscribe to our YouTube page, subscribe to his YouTube page. Do you have a YouTube page?
I have a Vimeo page.
Subscribe to his Vimeo page as well. And check us out on all our social media. We're just at Photo Brigade. We're putting together things on Instagram stories, Snapchat stories,
Soon
Facebook.
We'll have the in the bag thing.
Well, this next week we'll have Cameron's In My Bag, which is going to be like, I don't know, how many cases of gear is it?
I don't know. It's something like 15, 20 cases.
15, 20 cases of gear this guy has. So it's going to be our biggest In My Bag ever.
Yeah, it's pretty large.
It's going to be intense. So tune in, photobrigade.com. Cameron, thank you so much for your time.
Definitely.
And we'll see you all again next time. Take care, everyone.